Good evening, everyone here on YouTube. Hope everyone is doing well. This is K1DBC. All stations, please stand by. The Denver Radio Club Learning Net starts in 5 minutes.
W0TX repeater.
This is K1DBC. All stations, please stand by. The Denver Radio Club Learning Net will start in 1 minute. All stations, please stand by. Good evening, again, everyone here on YouTube. Appreciate you all checking in here. If you ever have any questions, just let us know. And you can check in via the comments if you'd like. Where's the right button for this here? Here we go. Hello, good evening, and welcome back to the Denver Radio Club Learning Net for June 14th, 2023. So far into the year here, it's crazy how time goes on here. This is Kilo 1 Delta Bravo Charlie. My name is Daron, and I'll be your net control this evening. This is a great place to learn about ham radio and STEM topics, science, technology, engineering, mathematics, emergency communication support, all sorts of tendrils to the net, or to the hobby. Last week, we spoke about our recent siren test and what goes into that, some inclement weather and Skywarn information, and a whole lot more information. Tonight, we'll be taking your check-ins, comments, questions, updates, and more. We meet every Wednesday except the third Wednesday of the month at 7:30 p.m. Mountain Time on 145.490 and 448.625. Both have a negative offset and do at the moment require a PL tone of 100 hertz. And there is a 3-minute timeout. So please keep that in mind. You can contact us via email, elmer@w0tx.org, and most social media at Denver Radio Club. We also stream and archive our nets on youtube.com/Denver Radio Club. So if you'd like to see behind the scenes of the net, net control, operations, or visual context, that is an additional way to view the net. This net can be broken at any time for emergency or priority traffic by using the word break. Is there any emergency or priority traffic at this time? All right, this is K1 DBC Net Control. If you'd like to follow along with the check-ins, some other clubs are using things like, I think what it is, NetLogger or Club Logger. This is something very similar, but doesn't require anything to download, and it's free. w0tx.org/check-in. You can see a call sign name, class, and some information, comments, questions about that. So w0tx.org/check-in. You'll be redirected to a spreadsheet, and you can follow along. All right, this is Daron, K1 DBC Net Control. All check-ins to the net will be taken in alphabetical groups based on the first letter of the suffix of the operator's call sign. That is the first letter after the number in the call sign. If you can, please try to use I2 phonetics for the call sign and indicate if you have any traffic or questions as you check in. If your suffix begins with the letters A through M, Alpha through Mike, please check in now.
Kilo Echo 0 Alpha Bravo, Cannon Lakewood. November 1, Golf Uniform Mike, Peter, Littleton.
All right, this is K1 DBC Net Control. I'd like to welcome the knowledge of the following check-ins: KE0 Alpha Bravo Ken and N1GUM Peter. Thank you both so much for checking in. Again, if your call suffix begins with the letters A through M, Alpha through Mike, and you'd like to check into Denver Radio Club Ham Learning Net just for the count, or if you have any traffic or questions, please call now with your call sign, your name, and let us know if you have traffic or questions. Please call now.
W0TX 0 Kilo Papa Sierra, Kevin, Lakewood, Mobile. Kilo Foxtrot 0, Foxtrot Papa India, Ron in Lakewood, no traffic for now.
All right, this is K1 DBC Net Control. That time we hit K0 KPS Kevin and KF0 FBI Ron. Thank you both so much for checking in. As always, we'll open it up the whole alphabet. Alpha through Zulu, A through Z, and you'd like to check into the Denver Radio Club Ham Learning Net, we'll take check-ins all throughout the net. So if you don't feel comfortable or if you've missed this process at this point, there'll be plenty of opportunities throughout the net. But we'll open up the whole alphabet, A through Z, Alpha through Zulu, all call signs, all call suffixes. Call now with your call sign, name, and let us know if you have traffic or questions. Please call now.
Kilo Echo 0, Sierra Uniform Mike, Jonathan, Lakewood, with traffic.
All right, this is K1 DBC Net Control. Real quick, FPI run. If you had possible traffic, no worries. If you think about it, no worries. And then KE0SUM, Jonathan, thank you so much for checking in, as always, with traffic. Might be a lighter net, but it is the summer. It is a nice time to get out, maybe. But depending on the weather. But again, I'll throw it out to the group. Again, this is the Denver Radio Club Learning Net. Great place to learn about ham radio, science, technology, engineering, mathematics, all the tendrils, emergency communications, everything about ham radio. So we're taking all call signs, all call suffixes. If you'd like to check into the Denver Radio Club Ham Learning Net, let us know your call sign, your name, and if you have any traffic or questions, please call now. All right, this is K1 DBC Net Control. Again, just as a reminder, this repeater does require a 100 Hz PL tone. So if you've been trying to check in and we're not hearing you, that is maybe a reason. You need to have the PL tone turned on, and make sure, just to keep in mind, everyone, there's a 3-minute timeout. So once more, there's plenty of time here. This is about a 60-minute conversation about any of your projects, traffic, anything like that. So again, anyone else at the moment, there's plenty of stories I was showing on the YouTube that I could bring up, ham radio related. Anyone else at the moment? Comments, questions, check-ins? Again, w0tx.org/check-in to follow along with the check-in process if you'd like. So please call now. Got you checked in, Larry. Yeah, not sure. All right, this is Daron, K1 DBC Net Control. Again, youtube.com/Denver Radio Club. We are streaming on there, and you can check in on there if you like, if you're not making the repeater. With that said, we had K0LAI Larry checking in online, not able to make the repeater this evening. So what else? Again, last week we spoke about our recent siren tests and what goes into that, some inclement weather. Again, we can talk about all sorts of things here this evening. So I'll take this opportunity once more at the moment. If you'd like to check into this Learning Net just for the count, or if any comments or questions, please call now. All right, this is Daron, K1 DBC Net Control. I guess just to preview a little bit about some of the things. I mean, as you know, in the Denver area, we're seeing a lot of inclement weather, a lot of showing a photo of some lightning, so just make sure you are unplugging things there, unplugging your equipment so it doesn't get damaged. What else? Some people just trying to get other people into ham radio. What else? A few other things I could bring up. But with that said, I'll throw it over to Jonathan, KE0SUM, with traffic. The net is yours.
Drone in the group. I try to think of subjects that interest me and possibly other ham radio operators. So I realized today that ham radio operators, I've known this forever, are obsessed with time, which is a good thing. So I'm curious. I wear a simple Timex analog watch, and it's very accurate. But I wondered if people if they use dual time zone watches when they're out playing POTA, that kind of thing, what kind of watch do the other guys wear? That that'd be my question. KE0SUM. Back to you, Drone.
Good question there, SUM Jonathan. Yeah, watch tech. You would think I'd be super into it. I was back in the day, and I just don't like things on my wrists. I guess really, I guess maybe some people like it, some people are okay with it, and but yeah, we have amazing timepieces nowadays available to us and watches available to us. So yeah, I don't wear one myself, but I'll throw it out to the group. Yeah, anybody any other interest in the watch technology or analog, digital? Leather straps, metallic straps. I don't know if there's. I'm sure there's some super precise ones, maybe that hone back to the. I forget what it is here, NIST or whatever it may be. But yeah, I'll throw it out to the group. Anyone on that? Go right ahead.
N1GUM.
N1GUM, Peter, go right ahead.
Yeah, for me, the wristwatches are more like jewelry. As we have more accurate timepieces on the phone and in the car, they all seem to sync up with the best time references. So if I do need to know the time, it's from my phone or from the clock in the car. And the wristwatch is really just jewelry at this point. I don't know how other people feel about wristwatches, but that's how I use them.
N1GUM, Peter. Yeah, unfortunately, watch tech has fallen by the wayside. It was a really cool thing, 20, 30 years ago. But as you mentioned, obviously there's much more precise time abilities now, like the WWV radio stations, and there's a lot more precise ways to get your time. So yeah, it's a wristwatch maybe is more jewelry at this point, but. And we're getting into smartwatches and how maybe smartwatches can interface with our phones and things like that, and we can tap to pay, things like that. So, yeah, it depends on your outlook of things. So I'll throw it out to anyone else or Jonathan. Go right ahead.
I'll make a quick comment that for years I've used my phone as the time device, but I really have gotten back into a simple analog watch. Very, very accurate. I think I'm off 2 seconds, but big deal. And with a leather strap. But it's so easy and convenient for me to look down and see that. Now, with HF, I'm always using the UTC, so logbook set changes things a bit.
W0TX repeater.
All right, this is K1 DBC Net Control. There is no denying the immense amount of engineering that goes into a timekeeping piece like this to keep it as precise as it does. So that's an amazing, unfortunately, maybe hobby that's also fallen by the wayside that may. It seems like it might coincide with our kind of community a little bit. So very nerdy stuff. There's a lot of really cool mechanical engineering that goes involved in these. I'll give it that. So unfortunately, people maybe forget that a little bit too. But mechanical watches are really, really incredible. So I'm doing it a really disservice here, not bringing up a lot of good information here. But this is K1 DBC Net Control. I'll throw it out to anyone else. So go right ahead. N1GUM, Peter, go right ahead.
Yeah, I wanted to add to Jonathan's comment, the analog wristwatches and how he likes them. I think you're not alone. There seem to be many others. I know 40, 50 years ago, the analog watches and the industry in Switzerland, they were writing them off. But there was one individual Mr. Hayek, who said no, they're going to be around and we'll need timepieces in various forms. And he was the one that conceived the concept of the swatch. And of course, now it has become a household item for a lot of people that do like these analog watches. And the whole watch industry in Switzerland is doing very well. And surprisingly so, maybe considering how 40, 50 years ago they thought it would just fall by the wayside and nobody would have wristwatches anymore. So just want to throw this out in perspective on the industry and how they have survived the downturn and are now doing very well again. Going back to net.
Very cool stuff there, GUM. This is K1DBC Net Control. I feel like it's been maybe 10, 15 years since I've heard the name Swatch. It was really all the raves, and I'm looking at their website here, and it was, super like kind of 90s aesthetic kind of thing. So, yeah, that is crazy. So, yeah, it's, different industries, different worlds, different economies, different cultures, it all depends. So, yeah, whatever works for you out there. There is plenty of options out there now for any sort of timekeeping pieces. So really cool stuff there. So kind of out of left field. I didn't think that this was going to be brought up, but this is kind of a cornerstone to kind of digital radio, at least in terms of being able to keep time precise in terms of our messages back and forth. Like FT8, for example, requires a precise time, and sometimes we use GPS modules for that as well. So it would be interesting kind of I'm sure there's somebody that maybe has tried it, but using an analog timepiece like this to maybe drive modern technology that requires millisecond or even higher precision. But very cool stuff here. Yeah, good stuff. Yeah. Anyone else? Please call now. All right. This is K1DBC Net Control. Missed some comments here from Larry Irons in the chat here. He's going to reprogram his radio. It looks like it went to split mode. And he also mentioned his German wall clock is totally precise. So good stuff there. So this is K1DBC Net Control. This is Daron, K1DBC Net Control. This is the Ham Learning Net. As you can see, ham radio delves into a lot of topics and a lot of engineering disciplines and really, really cool stuff. So we're open to discuss anything, and we've talked about a lot of things in the past, and we're more than happy to bring up anything we've ever talked about and anything new. So at this point, we'll take further check-ins if you're just tuning in, or if you've been listening in. We'll take all call suffixes, all call signs. To the Denver Radio Club Learning Net. Please call now with your call sign, name, and let us know if you have any traffic or questions. Please call now. All right, this is Daron, K1DBC Net Control. We have one more person checking in here. They might be listening in here. Steve Sabissima. I may be butchering that name. Let me drop for a moment. Futz around with this. There we go. This is K1DBC Net Control. No call yet for him, but we got you checked in there if you can hear me there. I'm hoping one day the sheet that you're looking at you can use. So very quickly on backstory here, very quickly. Steve tried to check in using the sheet I put in online, w0tx.org/check-in. I hope one day I'll have it so you can check yourself into that. But for now, I'm the only one that can do that, or just the net controls. So I appreciate you contacting us here, Steve, though, if you can hear us. So Steve, got you checked in, and hopefully you can get your call and check in. So yeah, really appreciate that. All right, this is Daron, K1DBC Net Control. Again, we have another 40 minutes or so. We have plenty of things we can talk about. But I can bring up a few stories. If anybody has any other comments, questions, check-ins at the moment, please call now. All right, this is K1DBC Net Control. One more time for any check-ins, calls, questions. Again, this is just a great place to learn about the hobby. If you have any comments or questions about any equipment that you're trying to use or are trying to fix, we have a lot of background. A lot of our members have backgrounds in electronics and engineering and aviation and mechanics, and it's just a breadth of knowledge. So we are happy to and open to have any comments, questions, check-ins. Please call down. All right, this is K1DBC Net Control. We had a check-in here online. W0AWS, Albert, got you checked in. Appreciate that from Westminster. Let's see here. What else? I was going to say something there. I may have forgotten it, but I'll throw it out to the group once more. I got plenty of things we can talk about, but any other comments, questions, check-ins so far, please call now.
Yes, UM. I have a question.
All right, I'll get back to you here in just a second, Jonathan. AWS Robert there looked like he had a question. He was wondering about how much power it would require to hit the repeater from Westminster. He's using 8 watts, and it doesn't seem to be to making the repeater. So, Albert, I'm not sure if you can hear us on the repeater or if it's not transmitting, but make sure you do have that 100 hertz PL tone on because that is required. But yeah, if you want to reach back out over the chat, or if you want to jump in, if you can. But I guess until then, Jonathan, go right ahead.
W0TX repeater.
Thanks, Jerome. I think I've asked this question before, but maybe a new group of people are in. So, how should you set up your NVIS antenna? Is it low to the ground? That's the way I understand it. So I'm still interested in playing with NVIS, near vertical incident skywave, for more local HF competitions. Have any of you guys set them up in a certain way? KE0, I should come back to that.
All right, this is K1DBC Net Control. Sorry, I think I skipped over Albert's question there by accident, really not by answering it. 8 watts should be able to hit the repeater, not a problem for Westminster. I believe. 5 watts, I believe, should be able to hit the repeater, I believe, quite easily from that area. I know our club president and other people work in that or living in that area. So, yeah, let us know on that. SUM's question there, NVIS antenna height. Good question there. Looks like some just cursory Google search on w8ji.com. Looks like he's saying 30 to 35 feet on 75 or 80 meters. The optimum height for NVIS antennas, this is just to quote this one person, not sure if this is exactly correct, but something over 1/8 wavelength or about 30 to 50 feet on 75 or 80 meters. Signal level decreases rapidly as height is lower than about 0.05 wavelength or approximately 14 feet. So, yeah, I don't have any experience on that. Just looking at here. Yeah, I think we did kind of talk about NVIS at least in the past, but yeah, I'll throw it out to the group. NVIS height, antenna height placement. Any experience, please call now.
Well, Drone, I'll throw out the comment that NVIS only works on certain bands, and you're correct about that, especially 80 and maybe 40. But I I thought the antenna should be set up much lower to the ground.
This is K1DBC Net Control. Yeah, it looks like a key factor in configuration of NVIS, near vertical incident skywave antenna. Key factor is the antenna's height above ground. Height above ground is usually less than, again, this is just another opinion of, this is from hamradioschool.com. Height above ground is usually less than 1/4 wavelength for the NVIS technique, and much lower heights are preferred by many operators due to reported performance improvement. A height of 1/8 to 1/10 wavelength is often used effective for NVIS. On the 40-meter band, a dipole elevated just 13 feet above ground can provide very effective NVIS propagation in a radial of several hundred miles. So they're saying on 40-meter dipole, just 4 meters above the ground, just 0.4 meters, 13 feet above ground can provide very effective radio. So yeah, it looks like that's another a different opinion there compared to the 30 to 35 feet. So this is Daron, K1DBC, Net Control, not to time the repeater out. I'll throw it back out to Jonathan or anyone else. All right, this is Daron, K1DBC Net Control. Some awesome information here. Some from Whiskey Zero India Papa Lima. Some research done at the Space Environment Center in Boulder, Colorado, about Pat Lambert has conducted extensive objective data collection in Colorado and reports an experience of better coverage with a height of only 1/20th wavelength above ground. He notes that noise is significantly reduced as the antenna is lowered by 1/8 wavelength, and the communications with close stations up to 300 miles away was greatly enhanced with such low antenna height, particularly using the 80-meter band. Yeah, really cool information here. It looks like on hamradioschool.com, referencing W0IPL, some research about of NVIS and propagation within our area.
Okay, Drone, I'll throw you the cliffhanger, because I don't know. Can you do NVIS with a vertical? KE0SUM, back to the...
Good question there, Jonathan. Let me see if I can find something here. I think the searching of it might be a little bit difficult because it has vertical in the word there, but and maybe I maybe probably just don't understand as well. But this is Daron, K1DBC. I'll throw out to the group. Can it be done with a vertical antenna for NVIS? Please call there. This is Daron, K1DBC Net Control. I think we may have found an answer here or something here. Hammed or stackexchange.com, pretty old website, and we might talk about some reddit.com and its recent debacle, but Stack Exchange is a pretty robust website about sharing kind of technical information. There's ham.stackexchange.com here, and it looks like, can a vertical antenna be used for NVIS? Let's see. Wow, their question here real quick. They know that verticals are not normally chosen for their low angles of radiation without obscene heights, but they're not especially interested in DX and primarily they're looking for local coverage, NVIS. They haven't had great with their luck with their dipoles. they were reading an old question. They're giving a measurement here of what is this measurement? Lambda. 1/4 lambda verticals are known as VHF applications, nearly isotropic patterns. How can you reconcile with that? They're great for DX. Verticals are great for DX, and what gives? How can you use? How can you do 160 through 40 on a vertical? Let me drop here. Some of the answers here, and this is way above my pay grade, so I'm really only just reading off of this response here. They were asking about made mention about 1/4 verticals are known in VHF, UHF to have nearly isotropic patterns. Response is not a total valid assertion. They has to have or it has a 0 dB gain, so by definition it cannot have a nearly isotropic pattern. Its primary directivity is toward the horizon at about 22 degrees elevation. Let's see. How can he reconcile with verticals are great for DX, but not for NVIS? You can't reconcile for it because the two conditions are not both true. Well-constructed vertical will have primary gain towards horizon. Oh boy, we're getting into the weeds on this one. And I guess the last part of it here. How can we do vertical with NVIS with a vertical antenna? So the answer here that this person gave, this was Glenn W9IQ giving the response here. NVIS with a vertical antenna is not a practical application, as another member also points out. The general concept for NVIS is to erect an antenna that directs most of its energy straight up so that the atmospheric reflections come back to Earth in close proximity to your station. The vertical antenna actually has a negative gain, a hole in its pattern in vertical directions. So hopefully that maybe answers some of the wonder there. So I'll throw it back out to Jonathan or anyone else. Please call now.
Hey, Drone. Thanks for the explanation. I think I already knew it. It just doesn't make any sense to have a vertical and do an NVIS, because the previous question was how low should the antenna be to the ground. So, yeah, verticals are great for propagation over distance. NVIS, bounce up and down and see who you can contact locally, which I find interesting. But thanks for the explanation. KE0SUM, back to them.
All right, this is K1 DBC Net Control. Yeah, I have not absorbed and through osmosis some of this stuff yet, and we've talked about NVIS, but I haven't done a deep dive into it as well. So, and some of the basic concepts of antennas still fly over my head a little bit. I need to. I guess maybe that's it's a good thing. Maybe other people have the same issues. Just maybe understand a vertical antenna versus a horizontally or orientated antenna, things like that. So that's. Really cool stuff there. So yeah, good conversation. Yeah, I'll throw it out to the group. We have another 30 minutes. We've talked about quite a few things here this evening. If anybody else has any other further comments, questions, check-ins, please call now.
SUM, can you ask the group, could I ask the group, does anybody have an ATAS-120 and what's their opinion of it?
This is KI4WIN. I would like to check in and respond to that.
KI4WIN, Daniel, got you checked in. Yeah, good question there about the Yaesu Auto active tuning antenna, the ATAS-120 for Yaesu equipments, 450, 857, 911, 991, 891, a few others here. So yeah, Daniel, go right ahead with your follow-up.
Hey, Dorn, thanks for letting me check in, and glad to catch you guys on the net here. I just walked in and heard that question. So I have an ATAS-120 and a Yaesu 857D, and I had those set up together in my pickup truck for about 3 years, and I had a great time with it. I was able to make contacts all the way over into Europe, Italy, down into South America, and all over the country when I was actually paying attention and working the radio. And I was also able to check into a lot of HF nets. The ATAS-120, as it comes in the box, will only work down to about 40 meters. But I have run across a few people who did some modifications and were able to get it to run all the way down to 80 meters. So I didn't do that, but it worked great up until I blew the fuse inside the radio. Yeah, so once I get the radio back, there's a good chance it's probably going to end up back in the truck after field day. So, but yeah, I love it. I think it's a great antenna, great system. I love not having to have a separate tuner and more stuff to deal with. And seems to work pretty well, although, of course, it does require a pretty significant ground plane, so something to keep in mind. But yeah, that's all I got. KI4WIN, back to net control.
When you say significant ground plane, please explain. KE0SUM.
Yeah, so, typically with a VHF, UHF antenna, you put that on the roof of a small car, and that's fine. You can put it on your trunk lid. That would be fine, too, that kind of thing. And this is true from what I understand with all mobile HF antennas, but especially with the ATAS-120, you really need to have some extra ground wire run from the antenna mount down to, say, the chassis of the vehicle. I know there's some guys that I ran across that had great success with theirs, and they had ground straps from the body to the frame on multiple parts of their pickup truck, something that I did not have, which is why I didn't have great results, but that's okay. Something I'll add in the future. But just know that you should expect to have to do some extra work for grounding beyond just setting the thing on top of your vehicle, in the form of running some ground wires to your body panels and or your chassis, that kind of thing, depending on what sort of vehicle you have. It is, after all, an HF antenna, so it requires a much bigger ground plane, electrically speaking, than, say, VHF or UHF. KI4WIN.
KI4WIN, this is K1DBC Net Control. Yeah, I think just as you started to explain that, a light bulb went off my head. Yeah, obviously, it's HF, requires some sort of grounding. Yeah, as you said, VHF, UHF, you can get away with really not having to do any of that, or SWR or anything like that for an antenna, mobile operations in a vehicle at least. So, yeah, cool stuff. So, yeah, I'll throw it out to Jonathan or anyone else on the reviews of that, the ATAS-120. Yeah, I know it's quite a... it's been around for many, many, many years, but tried and tested, and works quite well. And as mentioned there, Daniel mentioned, you can do HF operations quite easily without multiple tuners and multiple setups, and you can tune multiple bands automatically with it. So, cool stuff there. So I'll throw it out to the group. Anyone else? Please call now. All right, this is K1DBC Net Control. Yeah, anything you can do to make your mobile operations easier and setups easier. Yeah, especially when you start to get into the HF operations mobile, the less equipment, the better. So, and the more techniques, as mentioned there, the ground planes and grounding and for HF requirements, the more efficient it can be, and the more far out you can get. So, and you can be a mobile roving kind of HF MCOM or whatever it may be. So, this is K1DBC Net Control. I'll throw it out to the group. Anyone else on the ATAS-120 automatic tuning antenna from Yaesu here? Please call now. All right, this is Daron, K1DBC Net Control. Yeah, very cool stuff there. Yeah, I still have one. It's 75 inches in length. It's a little bit somehow, for whatever reason, I just like to have kind of a discrete setup, or it's just not too much hanging off. But and I don't do HF very much mobile anyway, so it depends on your requirements. So if you want to get into mobile HF, maybe look into a Yaesu and an ATAS-120. So multi-band 40 through 20 or 40 through 6 and 2 meter and 70 centimeters, and it sounded like maybe you can sneak in some other bands out there as well. So this is Daron, K1DBC Net Control. Anyone else on that topic or anything else? Please call now.
Kilo Charlie 8 Hotel Charlie Foxtrot, late check-in.
All right, sorry for the audio here for a second. I didn't catch it. K1DBC Net Control. Topic or anything else?
Hotel Charlie Foxtrot. Kilo Charlie 8 Hotel Charlie Foxtrot, late check-in.
All right, this is a K1DBC Net Control. Sorry, I had to double check your call sign there. Kilo Charlie 8 Hotel Charlie Foxtrot. Hotel. Wow, the weight of that call seems a little bit weighty for some reason. Jonathan, KC8HCF, Kilo Charlie 8 Hotel Charlie Foxtrot. I got you checked in. If you have any comments or questions, please let us know.
W0TX, repeater.
No comments at this time, just enjoying the net. Thank you much.
All right, sounds good. Not a problem. Sorry, I got that tongue twisted there on your call sign. So, yeah, if you ever have any questions, don't hesitate to jump in. But, this is Daron, K1DBC Net Control. Again, couple of reminders here, youtube.com/Denver Radio Club. You can see some of the behind the scenes. Radio is an audio medium only, so if you want some visual context, that's an additional way to see that and what we're talking about. W0TX.org/check-in. You can follow along with the check-in process. I've set up a tool here, really awesome stuff, where I can any net controller basically can type in a call sign and it'll automatically fill in all the information of the caller. So again, youtube.com/Denver Radio Club, W0TX.org/check-in. This is the Denver Radio Club Ham Learning Net, and I'm Daron, K1DBC Net Control. I guess I'll take this opportunity, if anyone else would like to check in. This is the Learning Net. We're here to talk about ham radio STEM topics, and we have plenty of combined experience and expertise. If you'd like to check in, we're taking all call signs, all call suffixes. Let us know your name, call sign, and if you have any traffic or questions, please call now. All right, this is Daron, K1DBC Net Control. We have another 15, 20 minutes or so. We usually end at 8:30 p.m. Mountain Time. No hard stop to the meeting, but we don't go over too much, but we're happy to spill over just a little bit. So this is Daron, K1DBC Net Control. What else? I can bring up a few more stories, or I can bring up some stories or recent news, things like that. But if anybody has any other comments, questions, check-ins, anything else so far for this evening, please call now.
SUM question.
Yeah, Jonathan, KE0SUM, the net is yours. Go ahead.
Yeah, let's keep the conversation lively, Drone. So, guys, you're listening, and I happen to work at HRO, which is fine, but do you really need a shack in the box? Do you need a ICOM 702, or do you need the 991A by Yaesu, or did you grow up with definitely a VHF, UHF, like I did, the 400, and then I moved to the FT891 because I like that. Do you think a single shack in the box is really worth the price? KE0SUM, back to you, Drone.
KE0SUM, Jonathan, this is K1DBC Net Control. Yes, the elusive shack in a box, all mode, all band. You can work everything at 100 watts or even more. So it is becoming more elusive nowadays. I think there was a very short period of time when, from a pricing perspective, the manufacturers could be able to provide that. 70s, 80s, 90s, HF was always its separate form. And then you would have VHF and UHF on its own. And then 90s, 2000s, there was a period of time, 10, 15 years, where it was manufacturers could pump out these shack-in-a-box devices. And I think it really is what people want. Why wouldn't it be it's everything that you want. You could do everything with that. So, and you could take it anywhere. So, but I think over the last 10, 15, 20 years, conditions have changed. And somehow the pricing points aren't really there for maybe some of the manufacturers to provide that or whatnot. But that's just my take and perspective on it. I have no idea. So some of us have some of these, and they're worth more now than when we bought them, and they were expensive then anyway. So, but I'll throw it out to the group. Is shack-in-a-box required? Can it be a la carte? I mean, I guess I was mentioning there maybe having the minimal amount of things in a mobile setup. So, for a pricing perspective, nowadays, for sure, probably it's a lot cheaper to have a separate HF rig and VHF, UHF. But who knows? This is K1DBC Net Control. I'll throw it out to you, SUM, or anyone else on that.
HCF comment.
HCF, Jonathan, KCH, HCF. The net is yours. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just looking up the current price, but I was fortunate about 2-3 years ago when I was just getting back into ham radio. I was planning on upgrading to my General, which I did about a year and a half ago, but I didn't have it yet, and I asked them, what's a good rig? I don't want to have to buy a new rig when I get my General, and I ended up with IC7100, which I know it's got some pretty polarizing opinions based on the alarm clock looking head unit, but despite once I got over the fact of looking at all the 7100s and how pretty the waterfall is and everything, I was able to pick up like a SDR play that I can switch my antenna to get a waterfall at one of the ham fests. And the benefit, I think, with nowadays is if you buy around the holiday season, November to December. I remember I got mine at the time, this was probably 3 or 4 years ago. There was a discount given by ICOM and a discount given by HRO. And I believe out the door it cost me just a little bit over $800 for the IC7100. I'm looking right now, it looks like HRO is around $1,000, $1,100. But I know around this holiday time, sometimes they had some really good deals, and I know there's been shortages since, so I don't know what the, if those are still happening coming up or not, but it was a good buy for me, and it does a lot of stuff. It even does some stuff the 7100 can't, does 2 meter single sideband and things like that, so depending on what you want, something like that, even though they may not be as, kind of sexy as the newer radios, they still have a lot of appeal. Back to net.
All right, HCF, Jonathan, this is K1DBC Net Control. Again, thanks for checking in. I think this is the first time checking in this net, I think maybe, or maybe in a while at least. But that's really awesome information there. Yeah. As you mentioned, waterfall, lack of waterfall, you could buy a cheap software-defined radio, $20, $30, and pair that with this radio, and bada bing, bada boom, you kind of have a pairing, or you're kind of on par with some of the modern-day technology. So, you know what? ICOM IC7100, about $1,000 or so. HF 6 meter, 2 meter, 70 centimeter, kind of all mode, all band, it looks like. And then, or let's see, what was the price point for that? Let me see here. And then for the 710 you mentioned there, exact same price point, but HF 50 megahertz only, but does have a waterfall and all the nice features. So yeah, it kind of depends on the price points, and maybe some of the newer technology, some of the ICOM IC7100s, and some of these modern ones with kind of these broken out head units and a little bit more sleek operations. Maybe those will eventually come down in price points. So yeah, who knows? Yeah, that's a good question. SUM, Jonathan, great follow up there. HCF, yeah, and as mentioned, yeah, during the holiday time, maybe look for some sales. Yeah, the price points are a little higher than you would expect, or it's expensive. It's an expensive hobby, but you know what? You buy once, you cry once, and you research. Try not to buy what you don't need, and figure it out. So yeah, this is awesome stuff. Really appreciate that conversation. I'll throw it out to anyone else on the group in terms of shack in a box required. Can it be a la carte? What are your options or opinions? Let us know. Please call now.
KI4WIN.
I think we had a double in there. I heard KI4WIN, and there was someone else trying to check in. If I didn't call your call sign, go ahead and try call once more.
W0TX repeater.
KE0RLQ.
KE0RLQ got you checked in, and if you had traffic there, I'll get back to here in a second as well. So SUM, or excuse me, too many names. KI4WIN, Daniel, go right ahead.
Yeah, hello everybody again. You know me, I'm a sucker for a good opinion on radio stuff. So, my 2 cents. I've been in ham radio since 2006. I was, of course, a new ham at that time. I learned an awful lot along the way, and I've always strived to find a balance between function and finance. My 2 cents is start with a dual band radio. A mono band radio is fine for most things, but these days we have so much VHF and UHF stuff, including repeaters out there, that when a new ham comes to me and says, "Hey, what should I get?" I tell him, well, the first thing I'd recommend you get is an HT that is at a minimum dual band, 2 meters and 70 centimeters. If you can get one in your budget that also will do 1.25 meters, that is great. If you get one that does 6 meters, that's okay. 6 meters on a handheld is well, my opinion is it's kind of a gimmick. Yes, it does work, but it's just not very effective. So, at a minimum, a dual band HT, and then when you get to it, when you're ready, a dual band mobile for the vehicle. I tell people that if I had to do it on the strictest budget I could imagine, I would start with the dual band HT, at least one step up from the Baofeng. The Baofeng stuff works okay, but the quality of the gear that you buy will directly impact your opinion of the hobby, especially when you're starting out. And the extra expense of purchasing a TYT or a Wuxan, however you pronounce it, or even an Anytone. Anytone is a good radio. You don't have to buy the big three, Kenwood, Yaesu, ICOM. Just
Timeout.
If you're listening on here, Daniel, you timed out the repeater, but you might hear that. It should come back up here in a second. There it goes.
Sounds like timeout over.
Hey, KI4WIN, the net is yours. There's about a 3-minute timeout. Sorry about that. Go right ahead.
Oh, yeah. I keep forgetting about that. You know me, I get to talking about radio. I'll go for 3 minutes just in the first paragraph. Where did I get left off at?
How much a new HF, new amateur, just a general, got his new license, how much should he expect to spend on his new hobby for a first radio, coax, antenna, etc.? KE0SUM. Hope you don't mind, drone.
usually tell new hams somewhere between $500 and $1,000 is a good budget to target. Sometimes I'll have new hams come back and say, well, right now I can put $300 in. What would you buy right now? And I'll look around on eHam and QRZ classifieds, that kind of thing, and see what we can find. But usually what I'll do is save up a little more and aim for a better quality radio. Again, you don't have to buy the big three, but for the HF rigs, the big three really do make good stuff, and they've been doing it for a long time. I am, of course, biased. I'm very partial to the 857D. It's my second favorite HF radio out there. And, when my budget opens up a little bit and I have some room to wiggle, I plan on trying to collect at least two more, just because I like it. And I'd like to have the same thing in the truck as I do in the house. KI4WN.
Well, I don't think Jerome minds. I'll throw it out to you, or the group, this question. But as a new ham, I always tell people you should probably figure $1,300. The radio I currently recommend is ICOM 7300 because it's so easy to use. But that's my opinion. KE0SUM, back to you, Jerome.
All right, this is a K1 DVC Net Control. Yeah, I'm extremely lucky that I was also able to purchase an 857D 5+ years ago from another Denver Radio Club member when I was first getting into this, and I feel really, really lucky. Because, yeah, but the price point you mentioned there, about $1,000, maybe even more a little bit nowadays, maybe up to $1,500, would get you into probably a proper rig that would last a long, long time. But yeah, you just got to ask yourself and what your price points are, and there's a lot of as mentioned, get into VHF, UHF, get into cheap stuff first because it's really easy to get into that and hit the repeaters and get on the air, and then there's plenty of options to use club equipment or get on via other modes and whatnot, but to HF, but. Yeah, again, buy once, cry once, especially when it comes to equipment that's $1,000 to $2,000 in cost. Yeah, do your research and understand what you're getting. And yeah, there's different opinions on different manufacturers, things like that. But yeah, good conversation. Yeah, it is. It's not a cheap hobby, but it's cheaper than others. So this is Daron, K1 DVC Net Control. I'll throw it back out to the net. Anyone else on purchasing a radio, new radios or more advanced radios, HF rigs, shacks in a box, or whatever, wherever it may be, please call now.
This is KE0RLQ. First, I wanted to mention that I am actually calling in from North Westminster right now. I'm on 5 watts.
RLQ, so much. Sorry about that. I completely forgot. KE0RLQ, yeah, I got you checked in and traffic there. Yeah, awesome to hear about that. So I don't know, AWS, Albert, W0AWS, RLQ, KE0RLQ. Michelle is also in the Westminster area using 5 watts and seems to be making the repeater just fine. So not sure if you're listening still, but really appreciate that. And RLQ, if you have any other follow-up, go right ahead.
So I actually got my General about a year and a half ago, I think, and I went in looking for a good kind of check in the box. And I actually got to end up with the ATAS-120A, which I really like. That's what I'm on now. I can go down to 5 watts or lower. I can go up to, I think, about 50 watts on VHF, UHF. And in theory, I can do HF. I'm in a kind of in a garden-level condo, and so my antenna setup is really, really poor. But that doesn't mean I haven't been able to at least hear a few things over HF.
All right, appreciate the report on there, RLQ, using the FT9 FT991A. Yeah, shack in a box, HF, VHF, UHF multi-mode transceiver. Yeah, it's a bit of cost to it. I'm not too sure the cost fluctuation from when it was originally, but about $1,300 probably to take that home. But you'll have, it's kind of it looks like maybe it's kind of a combination of some of the older and some of the newer. You have a smaller, but you do have a waterfall at the front of it, maybe a touchscreen on it. Yeah, touchscreen. So yeah, that looks like it's a pretty good rig as well. So yeah, that's not too far off, really. I mean, I think I at least bought my 857. I mean, the 857D. Some of these other ones are, I mean, about $1,000 anyway. So I mean, this is just another Yaesu anyway. So this is kind of just a step up. So yeah, good report on that. I appreciate that, and yeah, good to hear that even without the best setup, you're still hearing some HF contacts. So this is a K1 DBC net control. I'll throw it out to the net. Anyone else? Any other comments, questions, check-ins? Please call now. All right, this is K1 DBC net control. Again, 145.490 for receive frequency to repeat on this repeater, and minus 600 kilohertz offset, so you would transmit on 144.89. And then a 100 hertz PL tone is required. So if you ever are trying to get into the repeater and maybe not be able to hit it, just keep those things in mind, because we should be able to hit these repeaters with HTs throughout the Denver metro area and pretty far. So AWS or anyone else, we're nearing the end of the net. I'll take any other further comments, questions, check-ins. There'll be we'll wrap up maybe about 10 minutes or so. I can bring up another thing or two. But anyone else, any other comments, questions, check-ins, please call now.
FPI question for you, Daron. Back to you.
Not a problem, KF0 FPI. Ron, the net is yours. Go ahead.
Yeah, Daron, what happens and what does the net operator have to do if somebody times out that 3-minute timer when they're talking? Is there you got to reset a magic switch somewhere, or does it do an automatic reset after that timeout? I've always wondered that, have for a couple years, and the question's in my head right now. Back to you.
Good question there. Yeah, luckily I don't have to do anything. It takes care of it on its own. So yeah, after 3 minutes, and if it times it out, it's then another maybe 30 seconds, and then it resets itself. So just some history on that. It wasn't always like that. It really only changed. It's always kind of been like that, but the timeout time was greater. It didn't used to be only 3 minutes. It used to be maybe 10 minutes. But the timeout itself was quite long as well. It's about 3 minutes. So that was the downside to that. But luckily now it's unfortunately 3 minutes, which is really, really quick. So I'm hoping we're trying to fix that. But luckily I don't have to do anything, or as a net control operator, it just resets itself. So yeah, great question there.
Nope, I've always wondered that, Daron. This is KF0 FPI, back to net.
All right, sounds good there. I don't have too much technical information on it, but just some brief information. We can interact with the repeater through DTMF tones by pushing the numbers on our radios to update some settings. We have some web access to it, so we can update things online. And again, it's also connected to our All-Star Link node. 42851. So yeah, there's a bit to it. Luckily, it's kind of all hands off though, and kind of all just takes care of itself. So yeah, a lot of the some of the older guys on the tech committee meetings would probably be able to answer some questions on that or more. But yeah, great question. If anyone else has any other comments, questions, check-ins, anything else, please call in. All right, this is Daron, K1 DBC Net Control. I'm just going to cover a couple of things here very, very quickly here, and then I'll take another call for comments or questions, and we'll wrap things up here. Article over on Hackaday.com, Hackaday. Passionate hams make their mark on the hack chat. This is an article following up on a chat that happened. They have a weekly chat, Hackaday.com. Let's see. To go into the article here from Tom Nardi, June 12th. Let's be honest, there's some very not pleasant stereotypes associated with amateur radio. But let's see. Give me a second here. Basically, just a breakthrough to just community members. Anyone, they invited Mark Hughes and Bo Amber to help them on their last chat. They're both relatively recent licensees, make them uniquely qualified to shed some light on what it's like to become part of the ham radio community in the 21st century. As an added bonus, they're both sharp and articulate technologists, about as far as you can get from the mental image of the doddering old granddad who prefers the simplicity of the Morse code to those newfangled smarty phones. Results were quite frankly staggering. It was one of the most lively and productive discussions they've seen in recent memory, which is itself a sharp rebuttal to some of the more pervasive claims about ham radio. This wasn't a handful of grumpy graybeards bemoaning modern tech. It was a group of passionate folks who wanted to know more about the field and how to get licensed can help them with their goals and personal projects. At the same time, it was honest. Mark started off the chat by stating in no uncertain terms, let me drop here for a moment. Let me see if I can grab their call signs here real quick. Mark Hughes and Bo Amber. Mark Hughes, Kilo Echo 6 Whiskey Oscar Bravo, and Bo Amber, Kilo 6 Echo Alpha Uniform. This was basically just a chat, really. It was a chat room, and these are kind of just hour-long meetings, very similar to what we're doing here. Mark started off the chat by stating in no uncertain terms that the amateur radio is a hobby dominated by older folks, and without an infusion of younger blood, it's in real danger of dying off. Why is that a problem? Put simply, if nobody is using the frequencies allocated for hams, it won't be long before the governments of the world swoop in and reallocate them for whatever they please. Getting those back will be a battle with hobbyists. We might not be able to win. So why become a ham? Connect with a global community, engage with like-minded enthusiasts worldwide, forming friendships that transcend borders and cultures, sharpen your technological skills, dive into electronics, wave propagation, antenna design, serve your community, unlock global travel opportunities, lifelong personal and growth, learning and growth. It's nothing new. This is everything we've been talking about. So you can really get into this. Maybe forward this on if anybody's ever interested about getting into this. So passionate hams make their mark on the hack chat. Let's see, we're getting a little bit long here. So if you're aware of Reddit.com, there was a fairly significant blackout recently due to increases in API. There was a lot of stuff that went on. So there's an amateur radio community, and they participated in it as well. And it allowed for some of us to go out and touch grass, as the saying goes. But, it's... what happens when it becomes too expensive for some of these operators to use their product. So basically, Reddit.com is not profitable at the moment, so they're trying to figure out how to make a profit. And one of their recent changes was to start charging quite significant amount for their API for some of the apps to work. And for those developers, it just wasn't feasible. So that was just some quite important information there. If you are following it along on the check-in process, I'm using an API. The FCC has an API. The ULS has an API. And they don't charge for it. And that's what we use pretty much for the check-in process, and what a lot of people use to query for call signs and things like that. So that was just one important thing I wanted to bring up. So I'll see if there's anything else I have of significance, but I'll throw it out to the group. This will be the second to last call. Any other comments, questions, check-ins, please call now.
W0TX repeater.
I'd like to throw out one last quick comment, SUM.
Yeah, Jonathan, KE0SUM, go right ahead.
Well, ever since I was at Tech and now at General, I've had the radio dual band. I monitor all these different repeaters in the Front Range area. It's amazing to me how many have so little traffic. I'm not sure what to make of that or think of that. KE0SUM, back to it.
This is K1 DBC Net Control. I put together a CSV file for radio programming up on our repeaters page, w0tx.org/repeaters, and it has about 79 or 78 repeaters. And yeah, as you mentioned, not a lot of activity on some of them, which is kind of, yeah. How do we feel about that? I don't know. It's maybe maybe there's too many repeaters. I don't know. I mean, you can never have too much, but at what point really? Yeah, I don't know. That is a good question. Yeah, we love to see activity on the repeaters that we have, and through nets or through just social gathering or whatever it may be, organic. But yeah, there's a lot of repeaters in the Denver metro area, and sometimes if you scan around, you won't hear too much. So some of these may be up in areas where there's not great coverage for other people. Yeah, I don't know. But yeah, good question. Yeah, I'll throw it back out to you, Jonathan, or anyone else on repeater usage within the areas. Should we be? What are we looking at here? So this is K1 DBC Net Control. Go right ahead.
K1 DBC, this is W0AWS. Can you hear me?
Hey, Albert, W0AWS. Yeah, I can hear you just fine. Go right ahead if you have any traffic. But yeah, I got you in there.
Thank you. Yeah, I was trying to listen on the 146, which was the Boulder Amateur Radio Club for a long time, and then it almost never had anything on. So I was beginning to wonder whether or not the hobby was just dying off and giving up to internet traffic.
All right, Albert, you're a little quiet there. It sounded like you mentioned something about a 146 repeater, and maybe if it's online or something. I'm trying to find. I don't think we have a 146. Maybe I misheard those numbers. I was trying to look through the list here. There's there's definitely a few in the area here, but I don't know if we have one. But if you have a specific repeater frequency, go right ahead.
Oh no, it was because I was in the Boulder Amateur Radio Club, and I realized that their repeaters didn't have anyone talking on them, and so then I joined yours.
Okay, not a problem. Sounds good there. Appreciate that. Yeah, always good to double check. And that's kind of been a question as well, is what do you have displayed on your frequency, or what do you have on your display, the frequency or the name? And yeah, sometimes it maybe can get confusing, but yeah, definitely make sure you're on the right repeater, and you'll be good. So yeah, we got you copied in there. Yeah, great to hear you in there. If you have any other thing else, let us know.
W0AWS out.
All right, AWS. Yeah, great to hear you in there. All right, this is K1 DBC Net Control. What was the last thing mentioned there by SUM? If you have any follow-up on that, SUM Jonathan, yeah, repeater usage. Yeah, there's a lot of questions surrounding that. Yeah, it can cause confusion, as we just saw there, and but people own the repeaters, and they choose to keep funding them to keep them up, and maybe earlier on when people bought these repeaters, these maybe rented sites or something like that. Maybe it's cost effective to keep all these up, so they might as well just keep it up. And Yeah, it's always good to have more infrastructure out there, but the more that's out there, the less everything will be used. So that's I think we're kind of seeing that with some social media and different things like that. The more options that are out there, sometimes that is good, but sometimes it's not. So yeah, I don't know. Yeah, Jonathan, SUM, if you have any follow up on that, or anyone else, go right ahead.
Oh, Noah, just after years of listening, some repeaters are just great. The 145220, nobody uses. It's crystal clear. So, I don't know. I guess it's pick and choose where people settle. KE0-SUM, back to that.
That's a good point there. Maybe people aren't aware of maybe some of the repeaters out there that can provide better coverage for them in certain areas or for certain activities. So look things up online, either our page or through, I think, repeaterbook.com. If you're ever trying to look for repeaters around you, try to get as much information as you can, because there might be a repeater that you can hit that's closer, that you might be able to communicate with the other person on the other end or whatever it may be. So good follow-up there. So it is 8:45. We're getting a little bit late here, but there is no hard stop. But I'll make this will be the second to last call. This will be the second to last call. Any other comments, questions, check-ins, please call now. All right, this is K1DBC Net Control. Very quickly here, cover club business, w0tx.org for more information on our club. Upcoming club meeting next week. It's going to be the 21st, presented by Bill Worthington, KE0YKV. Earth's magnetic field, magnetic observations, and K indices. You'll see where those observations fit into ham radio, especially for HF operations. Bill holds several degrees in geophysics, including a doctorate in geophysics from Colorado School of Mines. His discussion will clear up a few misconceptions that have been noted in some ARL publications. So w0tx.org, right on our front page, for links to that. It is streamed on our YouTube page, but our chat happens over on our Meet, Google Meet, w0tx.org/meet. Again, the 21st, 6 p.m. for an Elmers session, very similar to this session here this evening, the Learning Net, but it takes place online, and then the main program is at 7 p.m. So we'd love to see you out there. So this is Daron, K1DBC Net Control. Let me see if I have anything else, but I'll probably start to wrap things up here. All right, this is K1DBC Net Control. This will be the final call. Any last-minute check-ins to the net, please call now. All right, this is K1DBC Net Control. As always, w0tx.org/check-in. You can see all previous check-ins, and if I've been good enough to put the information in, what we talked about, things like that. And if you want to be a net control operator, this is a really easy tool. You put in a call sign. It'll kind of suggest some of the other ones that have checked in before, and then it'll automatically fill all their information in. So we'd love to see more net control operators. We just had Alex KS0E recently take the Sunday night net, so that was great to see. And using this tool, I was able to help him a little bit with check-in. So if you're ever interested in taking any nets for our club, please don't hesitate to get in contact with us. So tonight we had a total of 11 check-ins. Really appreciate that. What else? Yeah, I'll try to update for next week what we talked about here. This is Daron, K1DBC Net Control. We really appreciate the Denver Radio Club for allowing us to use their repeaters. YouTube.com/Denver Radio Club. Everything on social media. Check us out there if you'd like. Comments, questions online. So again, next week is going to be our meeting online. So w0tx.org for that. So great to speak with you all here this evening. And I will close the net here. This is K1DBC, 2048, 8:48 p.m. Mountain Time. K1DBC Net Control. I am closing the Denver Radio Club net and Learning Net, and the repeater is available to regular use. 7-3, I am clear. All right, everyone. Thanks again for hanging out on here. We'll just take it out for a few minutes, and you'll have a good evening.